Well, for more insight on the mood in the camp and how Hugo Broos' side is shaping up, we cross live to Morocco to speak with Newzroom Africa's correspondent, Lorenz Kohler. Lorenz, you were training a little bit earlier this afternoon. How's the temperature within the squad?
The temperature with myself is freezing cold, but the squad, it looks quite good. The team is in quite high spirits, much better than the couple of days ago when we saw them ahead of the Egypt game. I think they're super confident going into this game against familiar foes in Zimbabwe. And it's just a matter of them wanting to get the job done convincingly and having, a lot of confidence, as they say, going into the knockout stages. It's the words that they're using that is obviously showing that the confidence that they have going into tomorrow's game.
Do you see Hugo Broos tinkering a lot with the squad that he picked against Egypt, going into the Zimbabwe in a must-win encounter?
Yeah, I think we had a bit of a side chat with him, and by his own admission, he felt that he got some things tactically wrong against Egypt. He wasn't happy with the way that the team performed, and he tinkered in that after at halftime, and things improved. So I think he might, change the midfield shape going into next game, and potentially, look to play on the front foot from the first whistle against, a team that he feels is a team that they should beat comfortably.
And I mean, Bafana Bafana right now are going into a match where they need all their players. Is there any news in terms of player fitness? Anybody broken down? Do we have a full bill of health?
Look, like I said, everybody's in good spirits. I saw at training there was not a single player missing. Everybody partook in training. Everybody's smiling. Everybody is in high intensity. So like the first two games, there's not much issues, which is a rare occasion. But yeah, they're keeping warm in this very, 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 very cold conditions in Morocco at the moment.
I mean, Bafana is not playing against themselves. They are facing Zimbabwe. How is Zimbabwe looking? And do you feel that they can cause an upset?
Look, obviously, they're here to cause an upset. Marvelous Nakamba and the coach said, every team at the AFCON is playing to win games. They're not coming here to fight for a draw or fight for a point, or an away goals rule, or having an advantage of home ground or whatever. They say they're coming for the win. And obviously, they almost spoiled the party in the World Cup qualifier. So I think they're relishing the opportunity to try and be the party poopers. And that's what they said. And the game that happened in Moses Mabhida, where they celebrated the draw, they said it's a different game. And it's a different mentality going into tomorrow's game in Marrakesh.
How fiery do you expect this encounter to be, particularly thinking about that Moses Mabhida match that saw a bit of emotions filled in it?
Yeah, look, I mean, Zimbabwe on paper, they've got a really good squad. They've got a new coach, and Hugo Broos said that it's a team that's showing more aggression, more controlled aggression. So I do think that, we're going to see a few early, clashes between the players. And surely if there's no early goal, there's going to be a lot of, frustration and fights brewing in between the players. So yeah, I'm expecting a fiery affair. Obviously a local rivalry, and CBC also said they always pumped up when they have to play Zimbabwe.
How do you think this group will look after tomorrow's final matches, particularly with Egypt already having secured their spot into the last 16?
As soon as the Egypt game finished, many of us were predicting that, South Africa will beat Zimbabwe and finish second in this group, and then potentially head to Rabat. There's a game of consequence that I'm actually at the stadium for now, which is between Cote d'Ivoire and Cameroon. Many of us also predicting that Cameroon will finish second in this group, which means Bafana will play Cameroon in Rabat. So I'm expecting, obviously, Egypt to finish top, going to Agadir, and then Bafana Bafana finishing second, and then traveling to the economic capital of Rabat to face the indomitable Lions. I could be wrong. Maybe Cote d'Ivoire could be surprised here at the stadium today. But let's see. That's what AFCON's all about. We can't really predict everything. Nothing is set in stone.
Lorenz, tell us a bit about the vibe. Coach Hugo Broos mentioned in one of the press conferences that it's not as vibey as the previous editions of the Africa Cup of Nations. It's bitterly cold. We do need some warmth from the fans.
Yeah. Look, you try to be positive in all circumstances, especially when given you this is part epitome. This is of many media's career to be a but it's very difficult to work in these conditions when it's raining. You're walking long distances in the cold. And in comparison to the previous AFCONs, which Bruce alluded to, like Gabon and Cote d'Ivoire and Egypt, it was much warmer weather where you could spend some time outside. So, look, I think from the fans' perspective, to defend them, it's like, you're not chilling outside in 4-3 degree weather in the rain. So it is just a very unique circumstance where the AFCON is taking place in winter. It never happens this way, and yeah, I think he's right. It doesn't feel like an AFCON spirit, but potentially a lot has to do with it being winter and people not just being outside in how they would be in summer.
And how have people adopted Bafana Bafana? Do you feel like we've won a few hearts over there?
Yeah, I think in a general sense, when you speak to locals or any other international or foreign media, South Africa is generally one of the teams they like and enjoy. They often speak about players like Tebogo Mokoena. You often hear, oh, Mamelodi Sundowns. They like the technical flair. They like the dancing, the singing, even the colors. The taxi drivers were always asking me, can I have your shirt, for example. So yeah, I think Bafana is definitely one of the teams that has great respect on the continent and also admiration. It's often many of the Arabic speaking and French speaking people's second team, so to say. And you will always, if it's a guy from Ivory Coast, a guy from Egypt or whatever, it's like, or Morocco, they say, hopefully we get South Africa in the final because they play good football. So I found that quite interesting since I've been here.
And from your perspective, do you see Bafana going all the way, particularly with what you've seen at training and what you've seen at the tournament so far and the mentality within the team?
Look, I mean, the run that they've been on for the past 2 years, you wouldn't bet against them. But Bruce did acknowledge that this is a different AFCON. There's not many teams fumbling, as was the case in Cote d'Ivoire, where a lot of the big teams were eliminated at the early stage of the competition. So it will be really tough to be up there amongst, the top four again this campaign. I mean, if they do get to the semi-finals, I would reckon that is a really, really good campaign for Bafana because there's so many strong teams and the favorites are definitely winning. You see, Algeria just scored here now. So yeah, the big boys are going to be the latter end of the stages of the competition.
And should Bafana beat Zimbabwe, how does their route look into going into the knockout phases? Would it be a little bit easier than perhaps, say, if they'd won the group?
That's tough to say. Look, definitely going to Rabat to face Cameroon is not going to be easy. Make no mistake, it's 5-time champions of the competition. And even the players and the coach would say at that point, it's just taking it one game at a time. It's that old cliche. Definitely, finishing third is something that they want to avoid because then you could potentially get, one of the top, or you're going to get one of the top 5 teams in Africa. So I think about tomorrow, just avoid finishing in one of the third best places. Try and get second. First place would be a bonus. Obviously, you're going to get a more favorable draw throughout the competition if you finish first. But with South Africa being, 10th or 11th ranked, and nothing is favorable. There's always going to be a Senegal or Cameroon or Cote d'Ivoire along the way if you are going to go all the way in this competition. So yeah, once then the last 16 starts, it's anybody's game.
And lastly, from me, do you think we'll see a few bolters tomorrow, like a Chandre Campbell maybe, just throwing a spanner in the works?
Look, I mean, I predicted it before the tournament started because I kept asking Coach Hugo, you don't have a traditional 10 in the squad. And when Chandre was, a surprise inclusion, I was like thinking perhaps during training, during this few weeks, you could get an opportunity because we don't have that person in his position, in a natural position where they're playing Mbule and Mbata and Mokoena. So look, I mean, he could surprise us. He could even play Apollos or Mofokeng as a 10. But he did say that he's super happy with how Campbell and Tylan Smith has been adapting and training. in camp with the squad, which is a big positive for him and for the future of the national team.
All right, Lorenz, just a word in is that Algeria have just scored through a penalty through Mahrez. What does this mean?
Apologies. Look, I mean, it's quite obvious that Algeria is going to win this group. But it just reaffirms what I was saying about the big boys are not they're not messing up like they did in previous campaigns, and it's exactly what Coach Hugo said was going to happen. No surprises this time around. Maybe even the officiating not as good as the previous one, but yeah, it looks like Algeria will go through. I don't think they have any relevance with Bafana Group, but it's just paying further credence to the quotes of the big boys are not here to play.
And then lastly from me, a quick score prediction for tomorrow?
Look, I'm expecting it to be goals, and I'm also not expecting Zimbabwe not to go down without a fight. So my prediction would be about 3-1 victory for Bafana Bafana, and I'm just hoping some of the attacking players get some goals to have confidence going into the next round of the competition.
Lorenz Kohler coming live from us in Marrakesh in Morocco. Not mincing his words, he thinks Bafana can win by 3-1. We'll have to wait and see that. That's where we're going to leave things from the sports desk tonight. But Malungelo Boy returns right after this.